Anyways, we're back with a bit of a different video, actually. One talking about the Switch 2. Yes, I know, it's Hollow Knight. And sort of, what did I think of the Direct and everything that was shown? It was alright in some cases, but lacking in others. And you might be wondering, what do I mean by that? So, basically, there were a lot of games shown, some that have piqued my interest, and others I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Was not expecting that. But they didn't really show off a lot of hardware, right? They showed off the newer version of the Switch Pro controller, which is, this is the one I have at the moment. They showed off a GameCube Pro controller, which is interesting, which I might end up buying at some point. Showed off a bunch of, obviously, games and stuff like that, like Silksong, which is a sequel, which we still don't know when it's coming out. All we know it's 2025. They showed Borderlands 4's coming. They showed a bunch of games, actually. But the main one is price, right? Which has now been revealed. I'm looking right now at an article from The Verge, and I also have one from Business Wire as well, which will be both linked in the description below. Because there's some stuff that The Verge has, which that Business Wire has, and vice versa. So I'm going to be switching between them. The main one, so we do know release date, which is June 5th, which is actually very close. But the big one is price. It's not cheap. It's $450 US, right? So that's about 600 and what is it here? About $630 Canadian, right? So for me, that, because I don't work full time right now, I only work seasonal. I may not even work seasonal this year. We'll see what happens with that. So to spend over $700, which is what it's going to be, just for the hardware without any games, is a lot of money, right? I was sort of thinking in the neighborhood of like 500 Canadian, 550 even Canadian. But for it to be over $7, over $700, and keep in mind that $700 is with tax, right? I really have to think about it, because that hardware alone is worth more than what I paid for my graphics card, right? My RX 6600, which is in my gaming computer, which I rebuilt in 2023, was like, I think it was like 4 something, maybe 5 something at most. I really have to think about it, because the games themselves aren't going to be cheap. They might actually be a little bit more than what current Switch games are. And yes, I know I keep grabbing Hollow Knight because it's the one that I have seen behind me. It is expensive, so I do have to think about it. I do almost have right now the budget for it. Actually, I'll have about 600, actually just under 600 once everything comes in. Actually, yeah, so it'd be about 600 I'll probably have at the end of it. So I really have to think, because would I love to keep my original Switch OLED? Yes, right? And I'm going to try to do that if I can, because I have a ton of games sitting behind me that I know will work on my OLED. I've run through them all to make sure they all load and everything, and they do. The problem is, with the Switch 2, that may or may not be the case. So if I have something in my library that is not compatible, and I want to do videos and streams in it, I can't, because I don't have the hardware capabilities to do it. So I might end up having to have 2 Nintendo Switches, which not ideal, but it is an option. So where does that leave me? Basically, so it comes out June 5th at a price of $450 US, so that's, like I said, 630 Canadian, over 7 with tax. I am looking at it. Luckily enough, it doesn't come out until June, so I could almost get the budget by the end of June. I would definitely have the budget by the end of June, for sure. The problem is, where do I get it from, right? I'll probably get it through Best Buy, probably, and just get it shipped to where I live. Alongside a game as well. There are a couple different versions that they have announced. They have the standard Switch 2 at $630 Canadian, and then they have the Switch 2 plus Mario Kart World bundle at about $700. So, which is a digital download. So that one is going to be probably north of 800 for sure. It does have a lot larger storage, internal storage. It's 256 compared to 32 gigs, so it's 8 times the storage of the standard Switch. For me, it's only 4 times the size in terms of storage, because I have an OLED. So for me, I have 64 gigs, which in reality is like 50, just over 50 gigs. I think it's like 55, 56 gigs or something like that, because of formatting and stuff like that. But it is a bigger screen, so it is 7.9 compared to a 7-inch screen, so it's only 0.9 of an inch bigger than the OLED, or about 1.5 inches or so larger than the standard Switch, which is 6.2. So it is 1080p, 120 hertz, which is actually quite nice. There is the mouse function for a few games, which for me, I would probably stay away from those games, just because I prefer using the Pro controller. And you might be wondering, are you going to get it? Like I said, if I have the budget for it, which I really think I will, probably by end of June, beginning of July, if I'm working, and if I can even get a hold of one, I definitely will consider. I know it's not cheap. I know that. About, like I said, between $700 and $800, depending on which version you want. The thing that bugs me is the sort of the quote-unquote tech demo for the Switch 2. Which I can't remember what it's called. Off top of my head. So I'm actually right now on the there it is. Yeah, Nintendo website, which again I'll link down below. The Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour as paid content, basically. That sort of bugs me because the PS5 had Astro Playroom, and that was free. For this to be considered paid kind of pisses me off. Again, we don't know how much it's going to cost or anything like that, but for it to be considered paid is kind of egregious, in my opinion, because you're already spending $500 plus US or over $7 Canadian, and then you have to buy that tour package, shall we say, to explore everything. That's kind of ballsy for them to ask for more. I would bundle it in. That's just me, though. And it is annoying for that to be paid. I understand that game development is not cheap. I know that. But still, to have something to come out day one, which it is releasing day one, and to cost, I'm going to say probably $30 US or 50 Canadian, is kind of annoying. And I do want to preface this, I am sorry if I swear during this. It's just that a lot of the stuff, it should be free in some cases. Like, for example, if you have a digital version of a game, you should get a free upgrade, right? But nope, they want you to pay probably $30 minimum, I'm going to say, to basically get all the new stuff for the Switch 2 from the original. So I have one of those titles, which is, I'm like, why am I looking there? I don't have it behind me. It's digital. Breath of the Wild, for example. There's an upgrade pack. Same with Tears of the Kingdom. Both those have upgrade packs that you have to buy. That's annoying. Whereas Pokemon Violet and Odyssey will have a free update, right? It's like, why are some games getting free updates versus others having to have a paid upgrade? That's kind of another thing that annoys me as well. Like I said, I do like the larger screen. I do like that it's full 1080p compared to 720p. The 7.9 inch screen for me isn't that big of a factor because I play on a 32 inch monitor, so that doesn't really matter to me as much. Like if I was traveling, for example, then yeah, having a 7.9 inch screen would be nice. But the problem is, my case that I have for my Switch may or may not work with the new one. But I am right now printing a mock-up, shall we say, of the Switch 2 to sort of compare thicknesses and stuff like that to see if even if it would fit, right? Because I don't want to have to rebuy a lot of accessories and stuff like that from the Switch to Switch 2 if I can avoid it, right? So I will not be providing this download file. If you want it, you can go to the Bamboo, what's it called? Bamboo Studio. Type in Switch, and it's like one of the first ones that you find. I'm just doing it in draft mode because it's about 9 hours. So I don't really care. And I have the material for it, so it's not that bad. Because I do want to see if it would fit in the case and stuff like that. Because I might travel with it, right? On a plane or in the car or something like that. And I do want to bring it with me, right? And if I have to buy a new case, it's not really the end of the world, so to speak, because cases are pretty cheap. I think I paid like $25 for the one I have, but I would love to save that money and put that towards games or Switch Online, right? So, yeah, so I'm not really sure, shall we say. It will have 4K output via the dock, which for me doesn't really matter because my monitor is not 4K, it's only 1080p, 75 hertz. So that's not really that big of an issue. Some games will have HDR, which again doesn't really matter for me because the monitor doesn't have HDR. They did clear up the mysteries about the C button, which is basically the game chat feature, so basically like a Discord type of thing. They have also announced the GameCube games are coming to Switch Online. That's kind of nice, which kind of did get me excited, which I am toying with, shall we say, because there are a lot of GameCube games that are very, very expensive, like hyper expensive games. We're talking well over $100, in some cases well over $200. So to be able to pay like a couple bucks a month, what is it actually? Switch Online. Excuse me. Okay, so it's like $70 a year, so that's not too bad to play GameCube and other games as well. Same with the advanced games as well. So that's not too bad. But yeah, so that's kind of nice. They did show off Metroid Prime 4 Beyond and Mario Kart World. So I am sort of leaning towards the World. What's it called? Sorry, I'm just trying to find. Oh, dang it. There is the I've yeah, I'm trying to figure out why I can't see the other version. So let me go here. Oh, and it just kicked me. Okay, that's annoying. I think it's like $6.99, and you get Mario Kart World as well. So that, I guess, is kind of nice. Um, so I am kind of leaning towards that. But yeah, so Prime 4 is coming as to both units, to the original Switch and Switch 2. What else here? From Software has a bunch of games coming out, making a multiplayer Switch 2 exclusive called Dark Bloods, which is multiplayer, PvP versus PvE, so player versus environment. So that's kind of an interesting one. Elden Ring is coming as well, that's kind of interesting. The Switch 2 Pro controller will have customizable rear buttons, just like the sort of like a SCUF controller in a sense, if you want to go down that route. Now I want to talk about cases, right? And I do have a PS3 one sitting behind me because it's actually relevant. So this is a standard clear Switch game, right? Like I said, this is just Hollow Knight, which is actually bent, actually. It's actually not sitting straight. Let me see if I can fix that. I guess that's just how it is. So, and you might be wondering, why is the PS3 relevant? Well, this is the greatest hits copy of Complete Saga. So instead of the standard Switch cases being clear, they're going to be red, just like the greatest hits here. And the cartridges, like how this one is black, will be red to signify the difference between original Switch and Switch 2. So that's kind of a weird thing. There is a new Kirby Air Ride game coming out, which is awesome. We haven't had one in like 20 years. And that's an expensive game as well. I think that is, last time I checked for GameCube, was well over 100. I think it was like 120 at the time. So this is going to be called Kirby Kirby Air Riders. Ugh, tongue twister. If I look up what is Kirby Air Ride, there it is. Yeah, you're looking just for the disc is like $120 just for the disc. If you want a complete one, you're looking at $120. And that's a player's choice version. If you want a normal version, you're looking at like $200. So quite expensive. So that's kind of nice to get basically a quote-unquote sequel. That is one game I will be buying. Obviously a bunch of exclusives like Donkey Kong, Bonanza, Mario Kart World, which is sort of an open world type of game, which is kind of interesting. I might consider buying it, even though I haven't actually played a Mario Kart game in a long time, actually. I'm trying to think the last Mario Kart game I've played. I think it probably would have been one on the DS at the time. I think it was Mario Kart 7 at the time. So that's been a long time. So that's why I'm sort of leaning towards the higher end version, like the bundle. But right now I've just registered for the standard at the moment through their website, through Nintendo. Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, which is coming out in the winter. That's sort of like a Dynasty Warriors type of game. I probably wouldn't buy it because I don't play those types of games. It is interesting. Let me put it that way. It is interesting. I might get it if I could get it on sale or something like that, but I probably won't buy it day one. There's a lot of games I would buy and won't buy day one, or at least even year one. I think right now I have roughly looking at about 3 games that I'm going to be buying year one. Metroid Prime 4, that's a for sure. Pokemon ZA and Kirby Air Riders, I'm definitely looking at. And maybe Mario Kart, if I can get the bundle, or even if I can't get the bundle, I'll still buy just a game separately. Now, here's a few games that I was not expecting to show up on the Switch too. Cyberpunk 2077. That's a bit of a weird one, because it is definitely a power hog, even on PC. And what I mean by that is it is very demanding. So I'm kind of interested to see how they do Cyberpunk 2077. I'm kind of interested in how they do it. Is it going to be like a watered down or a quote unquote light version where they don't have all the features and stuff like that that they do on PC or PS5, right? Or Xbox even, right? So that's going to be kind of interesting to see what they do there from the graphical side of things. Like I said, Silksong is still coming out this year. Deltarune, chapters 3 and 4 are coming, because 1 and 2 were free. So that's kind of interesting. Like I said, GameCube games are coming to Switch Online, which kind of is interesting because there's a couple there that are kind of expensive. Like Gale of Darkness is a very expensive one. I think, again, well over $100. Pokemon Colosseum, again, well over $100. Civ 7 is coming. That's going to be kind of an interesting one to see what they do there. I talked about the GameCube controller. They have a camera, which for me personally doesn't really matter, right? Because I use Discord anyways, because obviously I'm always at my desk, so for me it doesn't really matter. I probably won't buy it. I might buy it if it's on sale, like dirt cheap, in a couple years, just to say I have it, but I probably won't buy it day one. Obviously, like I said, Metroid Prime 4 we talked about. We talked about the C button. I talked about the cartridges themselves difference. $450, so well over $600 Canadian. 4K with the dock. Which will have a cooling fan on it, like on the dock, which is actually kind of nice, actually, because the original one didn't, and they can get definitely quite warm. The funny thing is, like, there was over 1 million people on stream, like, watching the stream, to the point where it literally lagged for 40 seconds. Like, it was a 40-second delay because of how many people were watching. Breath of the Wild will have an upgrade version. What also will have an upgrade version? I don't really. Okay. Like I said, so it's. Check out more games. Upgrade packs. Okay, so Mario Kart Jamboree Plus TV will come. So Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is what I have. I have Breath of the Wild. You get support for Zelda notes via the Switch app, which is actually kind of a nice thing. Improved frame rates and resolution, faster load times. For me, I don't really care about load times. Load times are nice, but for me, it's the frame rate and resolution. That for me is a big one. So I probably will jump on that. Those are the same upgrades for Tears of the Kingdom. Kirby and the Forgotten Land, new story, star-crossed world, visually enhanced with frame rate. Pokemon ZA, just improved performance with higher frame rate and resolution. Metroid Prime 4 will be able to use the support for mouse controls, enhanced loading times. Both display modes feature HDR support. Quality mode runs at 60 frames per second in 4K. In both TV mode and 1080p while in handheld. Performance mode runs at 120 frames per second in 1080p in TV, so in docked, and 720p in handheld. So not too bad. So for me, it'll be typically 120 at 1080 because it will pretty much primarily be docked. Again, I will leave this link here as well. This is directly from Nintendo as well. So there's a few things there that are kind of nice, but the main one is price, which, like I said, I do want to talk about a little bit more, because the price of the Switch is not cheap, right? So right now we're looking at, for an OLED with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which also includes Switch Online, I think, is $450. So same price. I don't know where they're getting the 629 from. That could just be what it is. And that is coming directly from Nintendo's website. They have finally released it there. But if you look at GameStop's website, it doesn't show anything. So even if I look at Best Buy, for example, just get information for pre-orders. I think the pre-orders start the 9th of this month, I believe. From what I've been seeing on the two links that I have open at the moment, doesn't say anything about pre-orders, but I believe they start next. Yeah, they start a week today, actually. Yeah, so new adjustable stand, a new USB-C port for the camera, plus if you're in handheld mode, you can charge it that way, like if it's sitting on a desk or something like that, or a table, I guess, if you're on an airplane. That's kind of nice to be able to plug in from the top. So I do want to talk storage for a minute. That is a big thing. So let me just grab mine for a sec. So, let me actually go into my storage here, for example. So right now, oh, actually I can do it this way. Give me a sec. Me being stupid. There we go. There we go. So you can see that's what my storage is looking like right now. I have moved some stuff around. So this is a 64 gig Switch Pro, or sorry, not Switch Pro. Switch OLED has 64 gig standard, but in reality that's more like 55 or so because of formatting and everything like that. And then the micro SD, I believe, is another 32, I believe. If I look here, I should be able to see what it is, which unfortunately I can't because it's not allowing me to do that. So having 256 standard is not that bad of an idea. The problem is the way that the SD cards are, and I'll grab the one I have right now. So the one I have loaded right now is, if I can even get out of the Switch at the moment, is a 64 gig Samsung micro SD card, which, oh, I hope I didn't corrupt anything that was sitting on the SD card because I pulled it without turning off the console. So this is the SD card that I have. It's a Samsung 64 gig Evo. Unfortunately, this SD card that I have will not work on the new Switch because they want you to use what is called micro SD Express. That's basically the new version. I don't even know what they cost. Micro SD Express. So we're talking yeah, so this is coming from IGN. 45 bucks for 128 gigs. That's actually not bad price, actually. But I'm looking here, currently unavailable for 256. I probably will just buy a Samsung one because that's what I've used for years. Unfortunately, that's the only one that I can see here. Yeah, so you're looking, you'll have to definitely upgrade, unfortunately, the SD card, which is kind of annoying. It shouldn't be too expensive, but be prepared to do that. So that's kind of another cost for people. Okay. I did want to make sure that when I put the SD card back into this, it did show up, which it did, no issues. So you might be wondering, are you going to buy one day one, year one? Like I said, they're expensive. $629 for standard. Actually, what I can do here is if I do this, I might be able to get more information. Um, do I need to sign in? Let's see here. Learn more. Bigger screen. C button. Switch online stuff. Okay, it doesn't really give me. Yeah, so they want you to use Samsung, which is fine. I like I said, I've used Samsung stuff for years. Anything that I have micro SD cards in, so my GoPro, my Switch, my 3D printer, are all using either Samsung or Lexar SD cards. I prefer Samsung. Like, even my desktops are using Samsung drives. So they're very, very good. Kind of expensive, but they last. Literally, this SSD that I have in my desktop is almost 10 years. Literally, I bought this drive in 2017. It's now 2025. That drive is almost 10 years, and I haven't had an issue. Yeah, so it's a new standard, which is kind of annoying. And it is only compatible with them. I want to see. Okay. Okay, so the cart bundle is. Oh, I have to sign in. Damn. Actually, sign in. But I am going to use a different account. Because I have a different account for different reasons. One is obviously, my main one is a US one, and my other one is another US one for testing purposes. And then I have one for stuff for Japan. And it's so the Mario Kart, the Switch 2 plus Mario Kart World bundle is $7.99. So I have 2 registrations, one for each, one obviously for my main account and one for my secondary. And yeah, so I can yeah, so I can sort of figure out what I'm going to do price wise there. So yeah, like I said, so $630 basically and $700. That's kind of expensive. And then on top of that, you have to buy the different games, right? If you want. That's why I'm sort of leaning towards keeping my current one. I do have a way to hook up two Nintendo Switches. I do have the power set up for it. And the only reason why I'm going to keep my main one at the moment, even if and when I do get my Switch 2, is because I have a ton of imports. I think it's like 20 or 30 imports or something. Like, it's a lot of imports. And I'm not sure if they'll be compatible with the Switch 2, excuse me, in any capacity. So if I, let's say, trade off my Switch, right, for like $200, which lowers the price down to like $500 for the standard version without Mario Kart World, and I go to play one of my imports. Let me grab one here. Like, for example, Food Girls 2 Civil War, which is an import exclusive, it may or may not play, right? And if it doesn't play on the Switch 2, I have to go out and spend another $300 to $400 minimum just to get a Switch that can play them, right? So what I will do is I will keep my Switch 2, or sorry, keep my Switch 2. Yeah. Once I get my Switch, I will, and I have my main Switch unplugged, I will run through all of my import games, like Food Girls 2 and all my other imports, to see if they will work, right? And if they all work flawlessly, like load up to the main menu and I play for like 5 minutes each, then I will figure out what I do with the Switch. Do I sell it to somebody or do I trade it, right? Like I said, I do know what I would get for it. It's about $200, which is stupid considering I paid over $5 for it. Actually, I can tell you exactly how much I paid for it. I paid for my Switch, keep in mind, like this, I paid under $500 for it, right? I paid $493.49, so basically $490 basically, and I'm losing like 200 and something on it. Actually, I can do the math. Yeah, I'm losing basically better part of $300. I'm losing 200, yeah, basically $300 I'm losing. So what I'll probably do is I would probably sell it for like 3 something, maybe. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. So there is Game Share, which is nice. So if I have one copy of a game, I can share it temporarily with a buddy of mine and stuff like that. Oh, via local play, or okay. So this is now coming from Business Wire. A lot more accessibility features. New game system, like new games for a new system. Safe and secure game experience. So that's through the parental control app. So there are a few things I am looking at, obviously. The main one for me is budget, right? Do I want to spend, actually, so we said it was $699.99, right? So if we pull the good old calculator back out, yeah, it's basically $800, right? And build, I'll have about just under 6 by the time. Well, I'll probably have. Yeah, no. I could probably be able to grab it at that price. But even still, even $500 US, right? That is expensive, right? Like, again, like, I know I'm harping back and stuff like that. Like, if we look at Xbox, for example, right? We're looking at $650, right? Just for the hardware, right? So we're talking over $200 more for a Series X, right? The PS5, on the other hand, is again $200 more for the Slim, right? So pick your poison, right? Do you want to piss off people even more with that price of $450 and make it $650, right? Or do you want to keep people happy ish and make it around $500, right? So it's basically the same price as an OLED, right? Unfortunately, from what I've seen and the numbers that I just gave you at 630 and 700 respectively are coming directly from Nintendo's website. Again, I will leave that link down below. So you might be wondering, when will I buy one? And will I buy one? As much as I would like to say yes, I'm still not 100% sure. And the main reason is budget, right? Because for me, I don't work full time, right? I don't do YouTube and Twitch full time for a living, right? I would love to get to a point to do that, but I can't. And unfortunately, there's nothing really around where I live that I can work full time, right? I've been lucky over the last 2 summers to work in a restaurant to be able to afford the hardware I have, right? Rebuild my original desktop, which that is the original desktop up on the wall there. All these games were from work, right? Over the summers, right? These 2 games as well were from the money that I was paid from work. Every piece of hardware that I have, even the 3D printer that's sitting outside, was from work, right? So I really have to figure out budgets, unfortunately. And I was not expecting to see it at that high price, at almost $630, $700 respectively for whichever version you go with. Because I was looking at buying one of these things. This is a Game Boy Advance SP for those who do not know. It looks like crap at the moment because it is. Because I ran it in draft mode, just basically lowest quality, just to basically as a prototype mode. So I was really looking at going down this route, but now that the Switch 2 has been fully revealed and knowing that there's more stuff coming, and at that price point of $630, almost $700 with tax, I'm probably going to be leaving the the Advance SP alone until I get a few games in that collection for the Switch 2. And you might be wondering, what are you going to do about storing them like what you did with the originals? So probably what I will do is, and I haven't fully figured it out yet, is I will probably, where you see the Eevee sitting on top of the 360 collection, that is probably where I will sit the Switch 2 game holders. Like the stack, I'll just stack them up vertically until I find a one that I like for the Switch ones like I'm using for the original. I still do have the original model of everything for that, so I could take measurements of those, of the ones I have seen, like the ones that I have for the original, modify it to fit the bigger cases, because that is rumored. I don't know by how much, because I don't have a blank Switch 2 case. I just have standard ones at the moment. Then I will sort of figure that out. I probably won't go as crazy as I did for the Switch 2 as I did for the Switch, just because the games are expensive. I'll probably try to buy a little bit more digitally, unfortunately, as much as I do love having physical copies. It's just that I just don't have the space, right? Yeah, so that's probably what I'll do. And then I don't know where I'll put my 360 ones. I might see if there's a gap big enough. No, I can't do it that way. I could try to move those books I have on the second shelf there, and drop that shelf with some of my PS4 stuff down a notch or two, to see if I could fit them into there, and then I would have more space there for the games. But like I said, it's all time and money. And unfortunately, I don't have the money to be able to afford right now the Switch 2, unfortunately, at that price. I should hopefully have that budget by end of June, early July. So I might be able to try to snag one from Best Buy and get shipped. Typically I would say Amazon, but with stuff going on stateside, probably not ideal. But yeah, we do know the release date, which is June 5th, which, give me a second here. Oh my god. Okay. My brain just went a different direction for a second. For some reason, I thought D-Day, which is when obviously World War II basically almost ended, in a sense. I thought the Switch 2 was coming out that day. It's not. It's coming out the day before. June 6th is D-Day, and the Switch 2 is coming out the day before. So yeah, yeah, that's where my brain went for a second. Yeah, no, it's coming out June 5th at $450 US. But from what I've seen directly from Nintendo, it's $630 Canadian. I don't know what it is US. Directly from Nintendo. Am I still... Okay, I'm not signed in. Perfect. Oh, it's saying I am. Okay, so the World Bundle US is $500 and $450 for the standard. So not too bad. So yeah, a lot of sports games are coming. Madden and Sports FC, which is basically the newer version of the whole soccer, the FIFA soccer stuff. Basically, EA didn't want to pay the licensing, so they decided to go down their own route, calling it EA Sports FC. Like I said, there's a bunch of stuff I'll leave linked below, but it's definitely interesting, to say the least. But I'm not sure. Let me put it this way. I probably will buy one, and then I don't know what I'll do with my Switch, my OLED. Afterwards, once I know all my imports can work, that's for me a big one right now. If I didn't have any imports, I wouldn't really care. It'd be like, okay, fine, whatever. I know stuff will get updated and stuff like that to work. But with how many imports I have and how expensive some of my imports are, like I have a bunch of games, like I have a ton of games that are over $80+ that I paid. I have a couple that are well over $100, like Nurse Love Addiction, I think it is. What is it? It's Nurse Love something. Give me a sec. Yeah, here it is. This is like a $106 game, which is crazy. But granted, it was done by Limited Run, distributed by Limited Run, so kind of a hard one now to find, and kind of expensive. So I was super happy when I found it. Not happy that I paid as much as I did for it, but yeah. So this wasn't an import per se, because it's obviously an English one, or North American one, but I have a ton of import visual novels and a ton of other genres. So at almost over $700 for the standard, that's pricey. And so I really have to think strategically, do I want to do it, right? I would love to if the budget allows it, but yeah, anyways, I'm definitely going to be doing a lot more reading on the Switch 2 over the next few days, watching a lot of videos, and just sort of seeing basically formulating my own opinion, which I have given, but more like from the I wish they gave us a lot more technical info, right? Like, what is the upgrade difference, right? Like, what is the spec difference between the OLED and the Switch 2, right? Yes, it is 8 times the storage capacity of the standard Switch. I have an OLED, so it's only 4 times the difference of storage, so it's 64 compared to 256, 4 times the difference. Bigger screen, so 1080p, 60, up to 120 frames. Selected games, obviously. 4K, HDR, stuff like that, fine. But what is the other differences? That's what I want to know. And unfortunately, at least from what I can see right now, come on. I don't know when the next Direct is going to be. So yeah, that's kind of annoying, because I kind of am interested to see what they do for that. Is it more games? Is it more information on the hardware? Stuff like that. I kind of want to know more info on the hardware side of things, considering I'm a bit of a hardware nut from that side of things. But for the most part, I am happy with what was released today. Like, not so happy about the price, obviously, of $630 for the standard, with the bundle for Mario Kart World at $700. But it is what it is. Like I said, game development is not cheap. So okay, so just got something here on Twitter. So April 3rd, which is tomorrow and Friday at 7 a.m. Pacific, which is 9? I think. Is it 9 or is it 10? There we are. So 7. Okay, so it's 10 a.m. Okay, so 10 a.m. Tomorrow and Friday. Talking more about we'll go hands-on with some of the Switch 2 games featured in the Direct, so which is kind of nice. Like I said, the problem for me is the price, right? That's a big one for me. I understand why the price is what it is. I do. But it is also, it's understandable, right? I understand why it is at $630 Canadian or $700 if you want Mario Kart World with it. I do. But it's also like, why didn't they announce the price at the last Direct, right? Hold off the release date, but say it is expensive at this price. Like, even when the PS3 released, it was stupid expensive. It was at the time the most expensive PlayStation. at the time. Like, it was for the 20 gig model at the time, was like $500 or 780 equivalent to 2024. For the 60 gig at the time, it was $600 equivalent to 940, right? Keep in mind, like, those prices are US, right? Where I have an 80 gig model, right? That's what I have. And that was a heck of a lot more expensive, right? So, what would they cost? 80 gig release price. Yeah, so the release for mine was August of 2008. Right? And it basically replaced the 40 gig version. And it was at $700 Australian. That's what it was. And this is coming from CNET. So, yeah, so, yeah, so 2007 for North America. Unfortunately, it doesn't say exactly. Okay, here it is. Here's one from IGN from August of 2007. So basically $650, right? That's expensive, right? And obviously now you can get PS3s that are like $150 or less. Let's actually see what they are right now. Right, Amazon, yeah, like 130, right? So I understand why it's at the price that it is, because technology is getting expensive. So it is what it is. So yeah, it's kind of annoying, but like I said, it is what it is. So yeah, at least we have the release date now, which is June 5th. So yeah, like I said, I will leave the two links that I've referenced, or the two articles that I've referenced, in the description, so you can read through, including the link from Nintendo directly, so then you can take a look if you want to consider putting in a quote-unquote interest, basically, to buy one directly from them. I did, for both, through two different accounts. Both, ironically, are US, so I should be getting an email from them shortly about that. But I probably will buy one through probably Best Buy, maybe GameStop if I can. So that's why I'm printing out the mock-up right now. Like I said, I'm not going to be releasing the files. You can find them pretty easily on Bamboo Studio. Type in Switch 2, and it's, I think, the first or second version that comes up. So yeah, so I'm printing it right now. There's about just over 8 hours left, 8 hours 25. Just so then I can figure out dimensions and if it will fit in the current case I have or if I need to buy a new one. So, yeah. Anyways, bye-bye.